Hello students and welcome to the class. I am your history teacher Manoj Arora. Today we will be studying the next part of the chapter, that is Kings and Chronicles. But before I start the chapter, I hope you all will be fine at your homes, taking care of your family as well as yourself. In the last videos, we studied about the Mughal court, we studied about their families, and in the last two videos, if I tell specifically, we studied about the Mughal administration. That how these imperial officials used to work, how the imperial court was set. Now, how the lower denominations of the kingdom were ruled or administered. We will study this today. Let's see that. The provincial administration, actually the division at the center was replicated in the provinces. The way there were officers at the center, in the same way there were officers in the provinces also. Diwan, Bakshi and Sadr. These were the three ministers, those who would be taking care at the provincial level. There was a governor to every province who would be directly reporting to the king. Beside that, not only the divisions would stop at the provinces, they were further divided also. The Suba was divided into Sarkars and there were Faujdars, those who would be responsible to train the musketeers and the cavalry. Quite often, the boundaries of the Subas and the Faujdars, they overlapped each other. That means they got the same area to administer. Below that also, there were further classifications. There were sub-districts which were called Parganas, and it also had three officers, Kanungo, Chaudhry and Qazi. And not only this, all these people were supported with a huge bureaucracy, because there was a lot of written work to be done, lot of records to be made, who is paying the tax, who has not, to see the grants given by the king, titles, salaries. There were a lot of things to be seen. So there was a huge bureaucracy. There was a large support of staff clerks, accountants and auditors. Besides that, there were certain skilled people also, those who would be doing their duties quite often. Persian was taken as the language of the court. Any of the document which was to be presented in the court, it was presented in Persian. Whereas for the local administration, it was told that they could use their local language. Now see the flexibility of the king, that the local issues or the local matters or the local documents would be made in their own language. But when they would be presented in front of the king as a cluster of all the documents, they would be presented in Persian. So there would be no problem to the king also and to the local administration also. Relations of zamindars and the representatives of the kings. Now the zamindars were the local magnates of that time. They had the huge power. But the representatives of the kings, those who would come to check these zamindars, often they had conflicts. And whenever the zamindars stood against the king, normally it was seen that the peasants, the farmers of that area would support the zamindar. So zamindars were also quite, you can say, a strong figure. If I talk about the beyond the frontiers, next topic, that beyond this, all the kings tried to have the high sounding titles. Now these titles are categorized into two parts, general titles and specific titles. If I talk about the general titles, they were like Shahenshah, which was taken by everyone. Specific titles like Jahangir, like Shah Jahan. Now meaning of Jahangir was world Caesar. Shah Jahan, that the head of the world, the king of the world. In this way, these were the specific titles. Now, Safavids and the Kandhars. Kandhar was a bone of contention for the Mughals. If I will teach you this topic, you will see that Kandhar switched off on off like a tennis ball in their court to the Safavids, then to the Mughals, then Safavids. This Kandhar was a very important area. Kabul and Kandhar, Mughals always wanted to conquer and keep under their control. The Mughals had conflicts with Iran and Turan over the Hindu Kush mountains. Now Hindu Kush mountains were the areas, this was the only area from where the foreigners could enter in Indian continent. Now this subcontinent, in order to save this subcontinent, the Mughals wanted to control this particular area. In order to do this, they had to fight with many people. Kandhar was a bone of contention. Initially it was with Humayun, then the Mughals lost it, then Akbar reconquered it in 1595. As I told that, like a tennis ball, it kept on, off, coming to them, moving away from them, then coming to them. 1613, Jahangir had sent an envoy, ambassador to Shah Abbas in order to talk over this matter. But in 1622, the Persians besieged Kandhar again. In this way, Kandhar always remained a weak point for the Mughals. The Ottomans, if I talk about the pilgrimage and the trade, the Ottomans had a very good understanding with the Mughals. They both tried to cooperate on many of the issues. Like they had decided for the free movements of merchants and pilgrims. That means from both the areas, the merchants and pilgrims could come and go very easily. And one of the reasons was for Hijaz. That means the people wanted to travel to Makkah and Medina. And we all know that how much important Makkah and Medina are for Islamic people, for the Muslims. So it was decided in both of them, among both of them, that the movement of the pilgrims and the movement of the merchants would not stop. And because of this, the Mughal emperor had combined commerce with religion. The Mughal emperor would send many valuable things to the other countries to sell them, and not for profit. The money which was received from these proceedings was used to give in charity to Makkah and Medina and to other places. And this was done for a very long time. But when Aurangzeb was also doing the same thing. But when Aurangzeb saw the misappropriation of the funds, that means the funds were not used in the way they were sent by the Mughal kings, Aurangzeb thought not to send money anymore to these people. And Aurangzeb quoted that he would spend this money in India because the house of God is the same as it is in Makkah and Medina, the same it is in India, and he spent that money to serve the people within India, to serve Islam within India. So Mughals had a great ideology. If they were combining trade with religion, but they were not keeping the charity with themselves, rather they were providing this charity, these proceeds, this entire money for the charity. I hope you must have understood this chapter. Today we will do till here only. I request all of you to read NCERT books, that is a must. If there is any problem, please write to me in the comment box. I will solve the problems. And still there are more problems come to me in the online sessions which are arranged by the school. Students, I request you to invest your maximum time in studies so that you can get good marks. Thank you very much. God bless you.